When I was building wealth, I didn't hear enough women speaking about the real. If I've said that income alone is not what is going to make you wealthy, then what on earth will? So, are you ready for it? What will make you wealthy is the power is you get to decide where you spend it, who you invest it in, and get to actually change the physical reality on this planet. Because multi-millionaires, they're not born, multi-millionaires are made. Welcome back to the Millionaires Are Made podcast. I am Michelle Rule. I am your self-made, soul-led multi-millionaire. I'm a business owner, an investor, a wife, a mum of two, and your ride or die women's wealth mentor. Okay, so in this corner of the internet, we infuse wealth strategy and wealth energetics. Why? Because it is the blend of the two that create the millionaire superpower that puts your money on autopilot and your life on your terms. So yes, I have made my wealth through strategy and through the power of energetics. So let's dive in now to a 4-part mini series purely based around the strategy, the exact numbers, the metrics, and the moves that took me from zero to a $7 million asset base in under a decade. Now listen, the more that we speak real figures out loud, the more your nervous system whispers, this could be normal for me too. And when I was building wealth, I didn't hear enough women speaking about the real numbers and having these conversations that I was thinking in my mind. And so here I am to give you the exact strategies, the exact numbers, my reality, so that hopefully it can open up something within you so that you know that you too can absolutely claim your millions. So pour yourself a coffee, pop on your headphones, go for a walk if you like. Let's spill the tea and make your millions inevitable. Okay, queens, here we go. The income illusion. I want to give you a little bit of tough love. Are you ready for it? High income does not equal financial freedom. High income does not equal financial freedom. I wish it did. That's what I was taught when I was growing up. I was at school. I knew I needed to get the best grades possible, to get the best degree that I could get, to get out into the workforce, to get the highest paying job that I could get. And that was going to be my ticket to financial freedom. And I know, so for me, this wasn't the reality. And I'll share that a bit later on. And listen, I know that Instagram keeps screaming at you. It says 30K months, 100K months. Like, let's just make the cash and you are set. Nope. I want to have a different conversation over here on my side of the gram. So it is about something other than your income, wealth. I sprinted up the corporate ladder, and as you know, if you know my story or you've watched my free masterclasses, I was the youngest account manager at a top Perth agency by the age of 23. I had a big salary for my age. I had zero dependents, no kids, just living the absolute dream. Now by 25, I found myself $30,000 in debt. Even though I had that high income, I was stressed out, burnt out, spiritually, mentally depleted, and essentially decided that just maybe money wasn't for me. Now listen, 15K on credit cards. Oof. I had 15K on credit cards and I had 15K in student debts. So at the age of 25, I'm thinking my high income was supposed to be my ticket to wealth. And listen, I'm not saying I didn't need an income, but the point is I was sinking when it came to wealth. Money came in and money went straight back out. Cue those Sunday night scaries. And all of those add to cart post-shopping shames. Listen, this is the income treadmill. Why don't I just run faster, earn more money, and then I'm going to be financially free? But with every single pay rise I got, I seemed to just be getting further and further in debt. My money wasn't stretching the month. There was more month than there was money. It's not a good place to be. So listen, I want to switch gears right now and give you the key to wealth. The key mindset shift that when I understood this, I understood wealth. Now, if I've said that income alone is not what is going to make you wealthy, then what on earth will? So, are you ready for it? What will make you wealthy is your net wealth. Sounds simple, like obviously, duh, net wealth is going to make me wealthy. But here's the conversation that not enough of us are having. Wealth. So wealth, on the other hand, as opposed to just chasing the income, wealth is like the escalator. Wealth is the thing that grows up and up and up and up and up, whether you're awake, whether you're asleep, whether you're at work, whether you're at home. Wealth. Now listen, the $1 million question is no longer how much can I earn this year? So when I talk about people chasing those high incomes, I know that they perhaps don't understand true wealth. So rather than asking yourself, how can I make that next 10K a month? I would love to invite you to ask yourself, how can I grow what I own every single year, no matter what my salary does? So how can I grow my net wealth every single year? So just let that land. So I'm over here having a conversation as a self-made multimillionaire that shifting your focus to net wealth, not necessarily a higher income, is your ticket to financial freedom. Let's dive in a bit deeper because I can hear you saying, well, this sounds great, Michelle, but what exactly do I do about it? Okay, so we're not focusing just on higher incomes, but we're now focusing on wealth. So what is net wealth? What on earth is that beautiful word? So net wealth is the net value of the assets you own minus every dollar that you owe. So let's just break that down in super, super simple terms. Net wealth equals assets minus liabilities. Now, assets are things that you own that appreciate in time, with time, that appreciate in value. So an asset is something you own that becomes more and more of value over time. So that's your asset, and your liability is something that you owe. So a liability, something like a mortgage, a credit card debt, you owe that money. So everything you own minus everything you owe equals your net wealth. Now, yes, you could debate that there are some assets that are depreciating assets. That's fine. Depreciating assets like a car, like a caravan, like the things that you purchase that might decrease in value over time. It's an asset if you can sell it for something. If it is worth something and you can sell it, then it's an asset, okay? It's something that you own that could turn into money should you need to sell it. All right, so stay with me here. I know we're getting very much into the strategy, but I know you didn't come hang out here with the Millionaire Maker just to hear the fluffy things and not to get some real action steps. So I'm going to be your wealth bestie. I'm going to show you exactly how to become a self-made multimillionaire. Okay. So assets, I would love to reframe this and just imagine. So take out all of the jargon, the technical financial jargon around assets. And I want you to think of assets as this. This is something that will go out into the world, will earn money for you without you trading time. And then in the morning when you wake up, let's just say you've gone to bed and you wake up, your assets have been working all night, 24/7, round the clock to make you wealthier. This is an asset. So listen, now assets, the reason they change the game, and as Michelle, as a 25-year-old Michelle, what I didn't understand because I had no assets to my name, I was on the income treadmill, trading my time for money. Money would come in and then I would spend it and there was nothing left. Now, if I had thought about growing my net wealth, I would have thought about using some of that income to purchase assets, because assets could be out there in the market earning me money. Use my money to purchase things that earn me more money, right? That makes so much sense. I wish someone would have told me that. So here's a quick visual for all of you board game players. Just imagine you are playing a game of Monopoly. Now, when you play a game of Monopoly, you'll have two types of players. And this is one of the analogies I love to use. It's not about property versus shares versus super versus whatever your asset is. It's actually just a visual for you to understand who wins the game of wealth. All right, so let's just imagine that you've got the Monopoly board there. You've got all of the players sitting around the Monopoly board. Now, you're going to have very different types of players, and it's going to tell me a lot about what they understand about assets. So you'll have some players that get their packet of cash before they start the game. Everybody gets the same amount of cash. And you'll get some players that want to hold on to their cash. They're thinking, the cash is going to make me wealthy. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm not going to spend it on anything. And I'm going to just have the most money by the end of the game. Then you'll have a different type of player who understands that the more assets they can purchase, the wealthier they will be. And now who wins the game of Monopoly is the person who owns the most assets. All right, this is what happens to the person who purchases assets versus the person who doesn't. So you roll the dice, you start the game, you start walking your way around the board, you land on something. The person who understands assets will buy it. They will buy that. They will release their cash, purchase the asset. They will land on the next square and they will buy it. They land on the next square and they buy it. They buy, accumulating assets as they go around the board. Now, the person who thinks, I might buy every 3 squares. So I land on a square. I don't really like the name of that asset. I'm going to walk along. Okay, I'll buy this one. Skip then and walk along. No, I won't get that one. I won't get that one. I'm going to wait until I go past go to get another 200. That person ends up with maybe 1 or 2 assets, whereas the other person has gone around the board and perhaps has purchased 5 or 6 assets. Now, everybody knows the game of Monopoly as it goes on. There's fights and complaints and people get annoyed because what happens? You know what happens. The person who holds all the assets ends up getting more cash because every time another player lands on their hotel, they have to pay the person who owns the asset the money. So every single square now, the person who has no assets is now giving all of their cash to the person who owns them all. And essentially, time after time, this game that has been around for decades and decades ends the same. It ends with the person that was holding onto the cash ends up giving all their cash to the person who purchased all the assets. So I wish I had understood that at 25 when I thought I wasn't ready to invest, but really it was more about not understanding the game of wealth. So here it is. I'm here to tell you, with all of the hindsight of decades of investing and decades of understanding the strategy behind wealth creation, to make it easier for the next woman to stand up and claim her wealth. Okay, so I really want that to land before we move on to our calculations. I want it to land. The person who will win the game of wealth is the person who has accumulated the most assets. So assets, my beautiful queen, are your ticket to wealth. Assets equal financial freedom. That's what we want to be doing to get ourselves off this income chasing cycle, to get off that paycheck to paycheck, just waiting for the next pocket of cash to come in from a salary where you had to trade your time for money. And we want to move you, elevate you to the wealthy woman who owns assets that make her money, whether she's awake, whether she's asleep. Every single damn day, her wealth is growing on autopilot. And I want that for you. Okay, so let's just take a little trip down memory lane, because I can hear you saying, wow, Michelle, that's good for you. Well done. You've got your 7 million in assets, but what about me? I have maybe nothing to my name and I'm starting out from scratch. And what am I supposed to do? Well, listen, my story began in 2015. I was 31 years old, to work that out, around 31, 32, and I'd just given birth to my first child, my son. Now, this was after a long IVF battle, and honestly, after a really dark period in my life where I lost multiple family members, one after another: my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my 2 brother-in-laws, and my nonna, the matriarch of the family. One after another, lost them. So I then had a successful IVF and I had my baby. And this was the beginning of my wealth journey, because this was the day that I realized, if I don't get off this paycheck to paycheck hustling for an income, I'm going to be giving nothing to my son. I'll have nothing for him, no security, no stability. If anything happens to me or to my husband or to my business at the time, if any one of those is taken out, it's game over. My child, I had him written in the will. I knew he would go to be with my parents or my brother or sister. to look after him, but what did I have to give them? Nothing. Nothing to my name. So that was the reality for me that I was simply not willing to sit with. And that for me was the birth of my $1 million life, because that moment I opened up my computer, I had my newborn, I was day after day just feeding and feeding on the couch, as you do. All of my mamas, you'll know those newborn days where you stare at that little baby and you think about their future and you think, oh, what's his life going to be like? What opportunities will he have? And you want the absolute best for your child. So in those days, I got out my computer. At this stage, after losing family members, realized when people pass, if there's nothing there, then there's nothing to pass on. So I was starting to think, well, what would I pass on to my child should I go? Now, I know this sounds morbid, but it was my way of setting my son up for success. I wanted to make sure as a mother to a child after years of IVF, that I finally brought him into this world. Well, what kind of a life was I able to offer him? So it was in those years I opened up my computer. I got out an Excel document, very basic. I got out my computer. I started plugging in some numbers and I figured out my net wealth. What was my total assets? Every single thing that I owned minus single thing that I owed. And I came up with a number. My number was $34,000 in the black. So $34,000, if I was to sell everything that I owned, including the home that I was in, what would I have? It would be $34,000. That was my net wealth. So at least I wasn't in debt. I had spent the last 6 years getting out of debt and starting to build a life for myself with my husband. And we had a business, a young business at the time. Our company is now 15 years old. But at the time we were making modest profits. So I had a little bit to my name, $34,000. But it wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. It wasn't freedom, not even close. That was not enough to give to my son should anything happen to me, not enough by far. So this was the birth of my net wealth spreadsheet. Now my clients will know because they actually get this exact spreadsheet. I've spent a decade with my net wealth tracker. It started in 2015, humble beginnings, calculating my assets and minusing out my liabilities to get my net wealth. Once I knew that number, it gave me a focal point, a focus, something to focus on other than income. What my ticket out of here was now going to be increasing my net wealth, not just chasing a high income. So now on this spreadsheet, I mapped out 2 scenarios. Scenario 1, do what I was doing and what would my future look like? So I plugged it in. The home that I lived in, maybe let's just say property a growth rate of 8% or so, 7 or 8. What would my property be worth for my lifetime? And I knew my superannuation would accumulate. So I worked out what that would accumulate to. And I looked at my mortgage decreasing until the point where it was paid off. And that was scenario 1. Do what I had been doing, which was not actively investing. It was just paying off my mortgage, saving some super, and hoping for the best. Now that scenario would see me paying off my mortgage in 30 years, retiring at like 60, maybe 65, and having enough super in my account, maybe a couple of $1 million if I was lucky, to then use that super and spend that money so that by the time I did pass away, I would end up leaving nothing. There was no legacy there. It would be a home to live in with a paid off mortgage and enough superannuation just to live off, but nothing to pass on to the next generation. What was my legacy? That to me was unacceptable. I didn't want that life. Now, option 2. So this is scenario 2 on my net wealth tracker. I mapped it out. Okay. All right, Michelle, I'm starting to understand about assets. I was reading a lot of books. I was using some mentors around me and they were speaking of some assets. They were speaking of how to build wealth. So I thought, okay, if we're going to start doing this, what would it look like? So I plugged it in. I plugged in my scenario 2 reality where I started to purchase assets. So in my map, I had plugged in accumulating an additional investment property every 3 years. We were going to be adding to our share portfolio. I'm not property or shares, or I'm all of it. I'm assets. Okay. So in my scenario 2, I was thinking if I purchase another property every 3 years, maybe get my way up to 6 properties, it looked like by about 15 years, I would be financially free. 15 years instead of 30. So this was a scenario that Felt scary, felt unknown, felt like it wasn't guaranteed. But what was guaranteed was the life that I was currently living. There was no financial overflow. A paid off mortgage and some super in my bank was not the life that I had dreamed for my son. It was not the legacy I wanted to live. So this scenario too, although it felt stretchy and scary and a little bit unknown, at least it offered more hope. At least it gave me a map to financial freedom. So that was my light bulb moment. That was my light bulb moment. Wealth isn't a secret. It's math. It's decisions. It's consistency. It's a plan. All right. So I hear you saying, well, how do we calculate it? Now, we've talked about calculating your net wealth is your total assets minus your total liabilities. Let's dive a little deeper. And for all of my beautiful listeners, if you come over to my Instagram, Michelle Rule Millionaire Maker, and you DM me the word net wealth as one word, NETWEALTH, net wealth, one word, you will get an automatic calculator that will get sent straight to you. Thanks to ManyChat. You'll get that, right? So this will be your calculator that will help you calculate your net wealth. It will allow you to plug in your assets. We want to be adding cash. We want to be adding super, share portfolios, crypto if you've got it, property, any properties that you own, home or your investment, any businesses that have equity in it. I want to know all of your assets. Then on your calculator, it will minus out your liabilities. So these are things that you owe. Remember, things like a mortgage, maybe an investment loan, credit cards, any personal loan, car finance, any student debt that you have. And it will give you your net wealth number. No judgment. Just get it, record it, date it, write it down. It's data. It's your starting point. It's your moment where you realize, okay, I'm going to be a wealthy woman. I need to know where I'm starting at. And now with that starting point, we can start to build it from there. Not just focusing on income, but focusing on net wealth. Okay. Now the power also of knowing is once you know where you are and where you want to go, which we're going to talk about in the next episode, because how many assets do we need? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to break down in the very next episode. So stay tuned. But once you know where you are, which is your current net wealth, and where you need to go, now at least you've got a chance of getting there. Because this anxiety that we all have because we're searching for financial overflow, but we don't know how to get there and we don't know where we are and we don't know where we're going, well, we're going to feel like the complete unknown. And to me, unknown is anxiety. At least when you know you have hope, at least when you have a map, there's a plan. Something, even if it feels stretchy, at least you can see it. And if you can see it, then you know if you follow the plan, you can achieve it. And that's exactly what I did. I never had any guarantees, but I just put one foot in front of the other and I had a plan and I was giving things a go. And I've learned an awful lot about investing over the last few decades. And I'm beyond excited to be your bestie, your wealth bestie over here, to really break it down to make it so achievable and so simple for you, because I want this for you. And that is what I always say to my clients. The only prerequisite for claiming your wealth and for becoming a self-made multimillionaire is you deciding you want it. Decision energy. Once you've decided that you want it, and this was me in 2015 with a newborn baby, a couple of, 34K to my name, I just decided that I wanted it. Nobody gave me permission. Nobody said, hey, Michelle, maybe it's time to start growing your net wealth. It was me. It was an inner driving force that I knew that I was made for more. And I was ready to finally look at what I needed to do to get it. So the numbers don't shame you, they show you. Numbers aren't shameful. I'm out here loud and proud sharing my net wealth. Why? Yes, it feels stretchy to share it, but if I can share it, then I can make that a normal conversation for the next woman to have. It's not about shame. It's about acknowledgement. It's just data. Numbers are just data. All right. So take a quick breath in, because we're just going to let all of that settle in, and I'm going to show you a case study with 2 different scenarios. Okay, let's dive in. Now let's just have a think about, imagine there are 2 clients. So we have Sarah and we have Lisa, same job, same income, right? You've heard that. Sounds like one of these superannuation ads. Same job, same income. Let's just say they're making $220K a year. You can substitute it with any number. The idea is it doesn't matter what your income is. So let's just say Sarah spends her $220K salary, whatever comes in, it goes out. Goes in, comes out. Goes in, comes out. Let's just hope that's what happens. And it's not like what happened with me where it actually more is going out than's coming in and you're getting yourself into debt. Let's just imagine she's on the income treadmill. What comes in, it goes out, comes in, goes out. 5 years later, her net wealth will be zero or exactly the same. Whatever it is today, it'll be the same in 5 years. What comes in, it goes out. That's the income treadmill. Now, let's imagine that Lisa, on the other hand, takes her 220K cash that's coming in and she decides to invest 100K of it, or pick a number. It doesn't matter. Just a nice even 100K for this example. So she lives on 120K, invests 100K. You don't need to have those numbers. It doesn't matter what you start with. I certainly didn't start with that amount. I started with much less. It's about the mindset. She's going to invest 100K every year. Let's just say after 5 years, she's now got 500K additional net wealth because she's decided to put it somewhere. So same income, she's just decided to slice some off and invest it. Now she would actually have a whole lot more than 500K because this is a power of assets. Assets make more money. So it's not like putting cash in a bank account. They go out into the markets, and depending on the markets, maybe property does 6, 7, 8%, some years 20%, like pick a number, it's growing or it's stabilizing. But in general, we always meet back to that same line. You know, it doesn't matter about the little wobbles. Don't worry about it. We're going long-term here. Or we're out in the share market doing similar, maybe getting 9, 10%, 11% returns. Okay, so her 500K, and if she leverages that, which we can chat about another day, that 500K could go out and purchase multiple properties. So maybe that 500K actually becomes $1 million of extra net wealth in 5 years. So Sarah, on the other hand, was on the income treadmill. Whatever she earned, she spent. She earned, she spent. She earned, she spent. She was wondering when was the income going to ever be enough for her to feel wealthy. And next door, we have Lisa, who earns the same income and she's slicing off part of that to invest. So the money that she's investing, she never has to earn again. Every money, every dollar that you put into investing gets to work on making you money. It's like sending out little employees into the market and say, go out there, your job now is to make me money. And that's exactly what they do. So let's just say Lisa has that $1 million extra in net wealth in 5 years. Income gap, zero. They're on the same income. Net wealth gap, $500,000 to $1 million. This is what changes your life. So freedom will favor the woman who owns, not only the woman who earns. And I would honestly just love, if you take nothing else away from today, is that focus on your net wealth and how can we grow it. Okay, we're doing so well here. So I would love to just invite you one more time to drop on into my Instagram, Michelle Rule Millionaire Maker. Come on over and see me. Just send me a message with the word net wealth, all one word, and it's going to trigger that automation and you're going to get the net wealth calculator. NETWEALTH, net wealth. DM it to me and you're going to get your own net wealth calculator. Now, today is the day that your wealth journey begins. If you haven't already, it is today. And if you've already begun your journey, then why not just take stock of where you are so you can celebrate yourself wherever you are. There is absolutely no judgment here. I've been on all ends of the spectrum. I've been in the red. I've been in the minus. I've been in negative net wealth, right? It's just data. It doesn't change who you are as a human being. You are beautiful. You are deserving. Abundance is your birthright. I believe that to be true. But listen, here we are. We're on planet Earth. There are certain rules about how wealth is built on this planet. And so we can either just run around blindly and not look at it and just act in ignorance and frustration at the money system and how unfair it is that some people are growing wealth, or you can learn the rules of the game. Play yourself. Why not? Why not join it? And with your wealth, you get to decide. With your wealth as a soul-led woman, you get to decide where to put that wealth. You have so much power in what you accumulate and what you call in from the universe. The power is you get to decide where you spend it, who you invested in, and get to actually change the physical reality on this planet. And I think that's pretty cool. All right. So I want you to jump into my DMs. I want you to get your net wealth calculator and I want you to come and tell me what you're at. Tell me what your net wealth number is, and I'm going to celebrate you. I'm going to send you a voice note. I'm going to hype you up. I'm going to send you an additional freebie because I want you to know you are not alone and you are on this journey with me. Okay. All right. So let's celebrate this because listen, you've just faced the number that most people dodge for decades and you just faced it head on. You did it. You did the thing, right? Yes, you did. So listen, I know the next logical step is going to be, well, here's my net wealth now, but how much do I need? Okay. So I'm going to tell you exactly how much you need. And that is going to be in the very next episode where I talk about your financial freedom number. So don't go away too far. Make sure you tune in to that next episode where I will be diving into all things financial freedom number and dream life number. Okay, my queens, now listen, chase those higher paychecks if it lights you up. I'm not afraid of earning money. I love money. I've healed my relationship with money. So go after it. Absolutely. Hit those targets, claim that money. But listen, get off the income only treadmill. Get off that whatever comes in goes out treadmill. Let's start looking at net wealth. If you crave ultimate freedom and sovereignty over your life, then we need to be growing our net wealth. I want you to own assets that pay you. I want you to let them compound while you sleep. Okay? Because multi-millionaires, they're not born, multi-millionaires are made. And you, my love, get to decide whether you want to be a multi-millionaire. And that's that. Once you decide, it's just a matter of strategy and energetics to get you there. Okay, so chart your number and let's make your millions inevitable. I'll see you on the next episode.